Okay guys, we're getting to that time of the year again. This is going to be our last big unit test. The next couple of things we'll learn are going to be tested through little mini quizzes. And so this is what you're looking at as your last ditch effort to save that grade, pad the grade, what have you. We've been working on this for a really long time. I'm actually recording this review video more than a week before that test, so we're going to see what we can do. When it says to solve each quadratic equation, I'm looking for you to find everything you possibly can for me. So as if I was asking you to graph this, that's what I'm looking for. This is in standard form. So I've asked you for the first thing that you do is to identify what kind of form it's in. It's in standard. From standard form, you should have memorized that you can always, always, always find the y-intercept. The y-intercept right now is going to be negative 12. Okay. From standard form, I can find factored form. The way I can do that is by using that box and the x method. Okay. So, in order to do the x method, we're going to take that first number and the last number, and we're going to multiply them together. The numbers here are 1 and negative 12. We're going to get negative 12 on the top. On the bottom, we get negative 1. That comes from this inside piece. And so now I'm looking for things that multiply to 12 and add to negative 1. Multiply to negative 12, not to negative 1. So I'm going to go long ways. 1 and 12. I'm going to try 2 and 6. I'm going to try 3 and 4. 5, 6. I know I'm done because I've already circled back around. So now I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this, trying to figure out if I put a negative somewhere, where am I going to get negative 1? And that's where it's going to happen. So I have 3 and negative 4. They multiply to negative 12, they add to negative 1. That first number, the last number. The first term, the last term. They go in that first box and the last box. My middle boxes are now made up by this 3 with an x and the negative 4 with an x. When I add those together, I get that middle piece, which is just a negative 1x. I've taught you that you always, always, always look at the sides of this. It will be x and x. Then I ask you, do I put something else with it? And you would normally answer no. That's because right here, there's no number right now. So just the x's are fine. X times what makes 3x? You would tell me 3. X times what makes negative 4x? You would tell me negative 4. Now I go and I factor these. I put them in factored form. That factored form, we're looking for those parentheses, and don't forget to set it equal to 0. Okay. So now I take each individual piece and I set each individual piece equal to 0. I get to move those pieces to the other side, and I get x equals 4 and x equals negative 3. If you have found a shortcut from this or have been taught a shortcut from this, please realize the shortcut only works because there is nothing in front of that x squared. Okay. These are called x-intercepts. This is the traditional answer. This is what most people are looking for when they ask for that. So if I scroll to the back, they got the answers are 4 and -3. I am asking you to do more work because I want you to show me as much as possible. So you were given standard form, you might as well tell me what the y-intercept is. This one's a little harder. You got to do some math in order to get to standard form. So our first rule of thumb is to make sure that everything is on the same side. So we do have to do some work with this in order to make that happen. I'm going to get x squared plus 3x minus 40 equals 0. This is now in standard form. From standard form, I can always get the y-intercept, which is going to be -40. It's that last number. Now I'm going to go from standard to factored. I'm going to do this through the box and the x. I'm going to take my first number and the last number. I put them in the first box, the last box, and I multiply them to get the top. So I get -40 as my top. My bottom is going to be the middle number, which is 3. So I'm looking for things that multiply to 40, add to 3. Again, I'm going to go long ways. I know that some of you don't need this step, but some of us do. So I have 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 3 doesn't do it, 4 and 10, 5 and 8, 6, 7, that's it. 8, I've come back around. So I do sometimes write that step. I'm like, that's gone back around. It's stupid to write 5 again and go through it one more time. So now I'm looking to go ahead and put a negative on one of these because it does have to make a -40. And so I'm looking to subtract these to get 3. If I subtract 5 and 8, I do get a 3 out of that. The reason why the 5 is negative and the 8 is positive is because I'm looking for a positive number, so that I need that bigger thing to be the positive thing. I'm going to go ahead, I get -5x, I get positive 8x. You'll notice that when I add those together, I do in fact get the 3x from that middle term. Okay. I've taught you that we always do this piece first, that there's an x and an x. To ask yourself, do I put something in front of it? You're going to say no, because there was nothing in front of it originally. So now you're looking for the piece that would make it an 8x. 8 times x makes it 8x. -5 times x makes -5x. You're going to double check to make sure you're right. So I don't think I did this on the last piece. But -5 times 8 does in fact make -40. You know you are correct. You're going to put this in factored form. That means putting it in parentheses. I get x minus 5. I get x plus 8 equals 0. Okay? Right now what we're doing is the zero product property. So if you hear zero product property from one of your friends, or if you see it on the test, that means that these equal 0. They're multiplying. Let's set each of them equal to 0 because at least one of them must be 0. Okay. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. I get x equals positive 5. I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. I get x equals -8. Again, vocabulary here is really important. This is called an x-intercept. This is traditionally the only answer to this when I'm asking for you to solve. However, I gave it to you in standard form. Why not practice and give me the y-intercept?